And still going live. Hey everyone, welcome to Tuesday Tea. My name is Leanne Calderwood, and I'm so excited that you decided to join us today. We do Tuesday Tea bi-weekly here on LinkedIn Live and Facebook Live, and I'm super duper excited about my guest today. I've only known my guest for the last 2 or 3 months, I think, Bobby.
That's it?
I know, it seems like forever. But Bobby Umar comes to us from Toronto, Canada, and we've gotten to know each other quite well over the last 2 months, but not well enough that I couldn't let him escape an opportunity to be a guest on Tuesday Tea today. Bobby has opened up my world to a number of different opportunities and different ways of thinking about thought leadership. So I wanted to invite him to the show. Bobby, welcome to Tuesday Tea. I am so excited to have you.
Thanks, Leanne. It's lovely to be here. I'm very, very excited.
Well, so the format for Tuesday Tea, Bobby, is pretty informal. As the name suggests, we're just going to have a tea time conversation. So thank you for bringing your tea mug to the show today. My audience is typically professionals in the hospitality space, be it meeting planners, event planners, people who work at hotels, destinations, even AV firms, catering firms, and such like that. So for people who don't know who you are, Bobby, can you tell people a little bit about who you are, what you were even doing pre-pandemic? And then, of course, we're going to talk a lot about what you've been doing over the past 18 months.
Sure. So I've been a professional motivational speaker for about 15 years. I've traveled around the world to conferences, to companies, to talk and speak about things like leadership, thought leadership, personal branding, authentic networking, building relationships, and in team dynamics, culture, anything to do with people, the whole people dynamic, the social dynamic piece, the power of connection, things like that. And I've done that for 15 years. I've done 5 TEDx talks, so I'm known to be someone who speaks a lot about that stuff. And then when COVID hit, everything got pretty much canceled, the majority of it. Lost 90% of the income and stuff coming in. So I had to pivot and figure out what I wanted to do. So I decided to go and just spend more time doing coaching. I put a lot of my programs around personal branding and storytelling and public speaking and everything online. So I was able to transition to people on doing online courses. And then I guess this year there's been a big shift with the aspect of social audio apps like Clubhouse that when I signed on, I thought this is really interesting. And within about a week, I was like, okay, I'm willing to invest time in this. I think there's opportunity. And then started growing that. And now it's been really, really great because our Thought Leadership Brand Club is getting close to 15,000 followers. And I have 11,000 followers. I've built up a community of really amazing lead moderators who are putting together some great content on a weekly basis. So that's been really, really great. And I mean that's another thing that I can train on. But for the most part, the transition for me has been to do more coaching and do more online programming and things like that. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
No, that is a lot about you, actually. And that is, of course, how you and I met, was in the Clubhouse platform. So you're ahead of me by a couple months. You joined Clubhouse, I think, back in December. You mentioned in one of the rooms. Yeah. So you were one of the early adopters. In fact, I think I'm also one of those early adopters, as people are still learning what Clubhouse is. My husband has no idea what it is I do on the platform. So people are still warming up to Clubhouse. So can you take us back to December when you found this audio app and kind of how you found your groove and grew from being a rookie on the platform on day one to now Thought Leadership Branding Club with 13,000 members?
Well, I mean, for the most part, I went in because it was recommended by 3 people that I trust. Typically when, one person tells me something, okay, great. But when 3 people I know talk about it, I'm like, okay, let me check it out. And then I waded in and out. I tried different things. I saw a lot of garbage, but I also started to find some really good things. And I got into a couple of conversations where I was like, wow, there's some really deep, authentic conversations that are going on, particularly because it was COVID. So everyone was, we were in lockdown, so we were kind of lonely, and having those meaningful conversations via audio was actually kind of cool. And so after about 7 days, I realized, let me start doing stuff. So I started rallying. The first thing I thought of was I got to start hosting a common room. And so I started doing LinkedIn with a couple other colleagues, and I started bringing some more people to do a LinkedIn mastery session. And we did that daily. And I think it started on like a New Year's Eve or something. We started doing a daily kind of discussion. And that started to pick up, started to take off within even like a week or two. And next thing you know, people were like, oh, I'm looking forward to this LinkedIn discussion. And then I started leveraging that for conversations. And pretty soon it led to many introductions, collaborations, partnerships, people who reach out to me to think about what else are we doing, what else can we do. I started dabbling in lots of other rooms. I was on Clubhouse for quite a while, a bit too much. My wife was not, and my kids weren't too happy about that, but eventually I found my groove in terms of the balance. And then I think what really happened was when clubs came out on Clubhouse, everyone was gearing towards getting a club. You're allowed to have 2 clubs, and everyone started going crazy for clubs. I was like, well, let me pick a club that fits with everything that I'm doing. And I dabbled in different ideas. I thought maybe I could do a storytelling club or a personal branding club or a TEDx club. But I went with thought leadership branding because it fits with a lot of what I do. Public speaking, relationship building, content, innovation. I felt it fit really well with everything that I talk about. So that's what I started. And I also realized that much like Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, a lot of people start groups, but they never build them. So I was like, look, I'm going to build it. And I bet you a lot of people aren't. And it turned out I was right. A lot of people weren't willing to invest in building their clubs. And so I started to build a club, and I started reaching out to people and say, hey, let's host sessions. Let me help you figure that out. And pretty soon people came to me because I knew a lot about how to run a room, how to moderate, how to reach out to people, how to create a system where you can start generating some business from these rooms, how to build, how to come up with topics. And people started really wanting the coaching that I was offering. So I said, how about this? We do a weekly coaching call. You join my club, I'll help you grow your brand, grow your room, and that'll help grow the club. And I think that way we all win. I kind of treat it like a community center. The club is like a community center where you go in and there's this room and that room going on, that room going on, different topics. You go where you want to go. And, we run the community center in a very kind of nice, tight-knit community with a lot of niche topics, but also a lot of great community support. So, and now and then we decided to go even further with a leadership team and a new website. And now it's kind of really like a legitimate business that we're trying to grow with each other. And I think, I'm very excited about the potential of this and where we can take it. And it's been pretty exciting so far.
Well, and I think you hit on so many poignant points. You mentioned when people join Clubhouse and there was this rush to create clubs. I was one of those people. So you kind of detailed my journey on Clubhouse, where I was starting to join conversations, but then decided to create a club, which of course I'm not doing anything with right now because I've found your club. And to your point, there aren't a lot of clubs out there that are, of course, providing everything that you are providing, from those weekly coaching calls to the WhatsApp group that we're able to jump into and help support other moderators with their rooms. There's so much that now the Thought Leadership Branding Club has become about. It's almost expanded beyond the borders of just Clubhouse. And for those of you who haven't visited Bobby's new website over at thoughtleadershipbranding.club, make sure you check that out. You can find Bobby's bio as well as bios for a number of our different moderators, and of course all the sessions that fall under thought leadership. And I kind of want to bring the conversation back to that, Bobby, because the words you chose for the club, thought leadership, we're now able to help support people in a diverse number of industries, in a diverse number of roles. As long as you have thought leadership in an area, there's a place for you within the club and a place where you can find people who can support you. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those really diverse areas besides the personal branding and LinkedIn, which I know you and I both adore, but there's so much more that the club is doing for individuals. Can you kind of give us a high level view of some of the topics that people are covering off in the club?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. So, I mean, there's things like burnout, which I think is a really good topic, which I think a lot of executives and employees can understand. There's entrepreneurship type sessions that are going on. There's sessions going on around mindset, and confidence. There's some stories. There's ones on storytelling and public speaking. There's and I think the other thing that because it's thought leadership, we can have topics specifically around thought leaders on a specific field. So, for example, when someone's running a room on healthcare executives, and so all the thought leaders in the healthcare executive space are showing up. So you can be you can run a room on thought leadership in cryptocurrency or thought leadership in financial investments, and you can run a room or club because you're basically putting in the room for thought leaders. So and then of course we're really big on empowering women, diversity, inclusion. We have another one on social activism. So the clubs the sessions are pretty diverse, and I'm really glad that we're able to see some really great things out there. And also because we're 24/7, I mean we have people from Australia and Europe and Africa and North America that are running events, and I think that we can do things 24/7, which I think is pretty cool too.
And I think that's one of the things I appreciate the most about the club and the rooms is the diversity of the people and the individuals that prior to Clubhouse, you could maybe meet them during a Zoom meeting or maybe, text them a message on LinkedIn. But there's something special about hearing one's voice and, getting a sense of their communication style that only Clubhouse, up until a few weeks ago, only Clubhouse could provide that experience. But now, because of the success of Clubhouse, we're starting to see a few more platforms pop up. Green Room. I know you've just hosted a couple Twitter Spaces. So can you tell people what is this Twitter Space and how does someone get involved in those kinds of conversations?
Well, I mean, they're just like all the other platforms, right? So Clubhouse is an audio-only platform. Whereas Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, they want to create audio conversations on their platform. So Twitter came up with one called Twitter Spaces. And it's pretty much the same thing than the other ones. You create a room, you join the room, there's people on stage speaking, people in the audience listening, and then you interact with each other, and there's different ways to interact. So Twitter Spaces is a little bit different. I only did my first one last Wednesday. I only got access in last month. And then I did another one on Monday, and it went well, 177 people maximum in the room, which is great. And the conversation went really well, and a lot of people are very supportive, a very unique, supportive, inclusive community, just like with the Clubhouse. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there, especially since I have so many followers on Twitter. I mean, I have almost 500,000 followers, so I definitely think I should be investing time and energy into it. Obviously, I can't do the same thing I did for Clubhouse, where we started from scratch, and I spent a lot of upfront investment to build the foundation for what we have now. But on Twitter, I probably can take a little bit slower because I have a large following, and there's some things different between how it runs, but the general thing is very similar. Like put together a really good room, have a great conversation, learn to moderate well. All my skills I learned in the last 6 months of being in Clubhouse have served me well on Twitter Space because they're like, well, Bobby, like some troll came on, and I swiftly dealt with them. Like, wow, Bobby, you seem to really moderate the room really well. I'm like, well, because I've been doing it for 6 months on Clubhouse, so during Twitter Space is not that hard because I've been there. I know what it's like how to moderate a really good room. But there are slight differences. Slight differences to each of them. I did a post this morning on what are the slight differences with Twitter Space versus Clubhouse. But I think at the end of the day, the social audio trend is powerful. The power of the authentic audible voice that people are liking, the ability to integrate audio apps into our lives much better than we could, say, doing content all the time. So there's lots of different reasons why I think the social audio apps are going to be trending quite well, even as we get out of this pandemic.
Mm-hmm. You raise a good point. They really only came on, Clubhouse came on, in the middle of the pandemic, and now we're kind of heading into year 2. So you don't see these going away when we get back to meeting in person.
No, because it's like video. I mean, video's not going to go away just because we're in person. I mean, even in the summer, people still use Facebook and LinkedIn. People still use Facebook and LinkedIn on the weekends and stuff. Why would it change? I mean, the only difference is now, just like look up stories. Almost everyone, 3 years ago, no one was using stories. Now, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and even Twitter fleets, we're all using stories to show behind the scenes and share photos quickly, and we're all doing that. It's just a way in which we communicate with one another. And I think that, just like TikTok is now promoting Instagram and go to Reels, we now have the short video thing that's going to be a trend. The other big trend, of course, is audio spaces. I think that now not everyone has to, but I mean, audio spaces have a certain advantage that people really love. And so people are going to be using audio spaces far more often. And as we get out of this pandemic, we're still going to value the relationships we built, the communities we built. I'm certainly, you and all the people that have been part of the TLB team, I'm growing really fond of you. You've become like my closest friends in the last 3 to 6 months. And so I'm looking forward to working with you even beyond when we get out of this pandemic.
And thank you for saying that. But you're right. It is a bit of a family. You know, some family members you want to strangle, and some family members you can't wait to see in the morning. So you're right. It has become a bit of a family dynamic with our little TLB team. I have a couple more questions for you about Twitter Space. But before I get to that, for anyone who's listening in the audience, whether you're watching this live or watching this on the replay, we'd love for you to pop your questions in the comments. The great thing about Bobby and I is we're always on LinkedIn and Facebook. And so we're here to answer those questions and give you the resources to point you in the right direction. Having said that, we did have a question come in from one of my connections, Suzanne, about the software we were using today. So Suzanne, there's a number of different softwares that you can use to do these live shows. I am using StreamYard right now, which is helping me moderate the comments, the comment that you sent to me, as well as moderate those solo shots that I had of Bobby, because no one wants to see my ugly mug when Bobby is talking. So, but there's a number of different apps that can do that for you, but StreamYard is the one that we've chosen today. So I want to get back to Twitter Spaces because I am also on Twitter. Now, mind you, I do not have 500,000 followers. That's right, people. Bobby has 500,000 followers. But when it comes to my tiny little corner of the industry, I am a little bit of a big deal. I've got a few thousand followers. Can I get on Twitter Space, or do I need to be a Twitter mogul like you to get access?
Well, I didn't get access to it for a while, so I had to bug them with, hey, what's going on? Why can't I get Twitter Spaces? So I didn't know why I wasn't using it. So they're rolling it out slowly for people who can actually host rooms. I got access to host a room just last month. And so what I would say is that, you just keep, but you can get on stage. So if you can't host a room, you can still get on stage to be a speaker. So that's something, so, I'm doing my rooms now. I've committed to once a week on Mondays at 11 a.m. Eastern weekly. And so if you want to join me and be part of that conversation, you totally can.
And that's at 8 o'clock in the morning, my time, which is the other thing I like about these audio apps is I don't have to do my hair or my makeup for these 7 a.m. rooms, these 8 a.m.
Because this doesn't happen just like this. Like this takes work. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of work. That's why Tuesday tea is 1 in the afternoon, people. It's because I had to ramp up for these things. But it is fascinating. I do jump on Clubhouse at 7 a.m. in the morning. My room is a 7 a.m. Pacific room, which is ridiculous. We're looking at changing that. But you can listen to these conversations while you're in the car. In fact, our speakers and moderators are literally in moving vehicles while these conversations are happening. Bobby, I know your shtick is you like to do the dishes when you're listening to Clubhouse. I do my makeup and my hair while listening to Clubhouse. So we've all kind of found our groove with how to consume the content, because it is content on the go, right? We're all kind of on the go. And I appreciate you saying that these are around to stay, because I'm getting kind of used to not having to do my makeup until 10 or 11 a.m.
Well, I think the initial appeal was the fact that it was easily digestible content, right? So it's a lot like podcasts where you can go for a run. But I think the other part, so I think this is easily digestible conversations with people. But the other part I think is really important is that it's integratable. So we're all wary of having that brand new app, and another Snapchat, another TikTok, another LinkedIn, like people get tired of that stuff. But with the social audio apps, it's much more easy to integrate in your life. Like it's not a huge burden as the other ones, because again, you're right. I can do laundry. So typically when I'm doing my rooms on Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces, I'm usually doing something. Not always. And sometimes I'm focused, but most of the time I'm usually doing something. Either going for a walk, or I'm doing dishes, which is I'm famous for, or I'm cooking, or I'm grocery shopping. It's pretty much those are the four biggest things I'm doing.
Yeah, I tried grocery shopping once and I couldn't do it because it was too much. I could not.
It's hard to lead, but you can be on. It's hard to lead, but you can still be like a support mod or be on stage speaking.
Yeah,
Leading is hard. Yeah.
Tuck myself into the audience when I need to focus on, standing at the deli and getting my meat for the week, which is hilarious.
One time I got caught. I was brushing my teeth, and I couldn't tell her that I was brushing my teeth just for 2 minutes, right? Like, where is he? Where's Bobby? And I was like, oh, sorry, I was brushing my teeth. I totally should have told you. I didn't tell you.
Well, it has introduced a new level of multitasking for sure. But to your point, that's the great thing about Clubhouse is we can go for a walk and still consume professional content. We can do all these things and still feed our minds if we choose. But there is that danger, and you spoke to this a little bit earlier, and I'm coming out of that danger zone as well as spending too much time on these apps. And not focusing enough time on the other priorities. So you mentioned you've now got a balance, but how did you get there? What did that look like for you and your family?
And just to be clear, my balance may not be someone else's balance.
Yeah, fair.
So originally what happened on Clubhouse was I was on there so often that my son called a family meeting and said, hey, Daddy's on Clubhouse all the time. What's going on? And so I was like, okay, you know what? Let's create a protocol, because now what will happen is my headphones are always on. Like, are you listening to anything? I'm like, no, I'm not listening. Just ask me if I'm listening to something, because sometimes I leave them in and I'm doing other stuff and they think that I'm online all the time, but I'm not. So I said, just come up to me, ask me, Daddy, are you online? I'll let you know if I am, and I can talk to you if it's on Clubhouse. And I still do a lot of kid rearing while I'm doing Clubhouse as well. So I had to come up with those protocols. And the reason why I set up a LinkedIn Mastery daily session with other speakers and set up a whole list of here are the protocols for how we do these rooms. The same reason why I ran the club is because I wanted to create a system and a foundation for other people to be empowered to do stuff and build and grow their brands and grow the club. So I didn't have to be there. So like for LinkedIn Mastery, for example, now it's at a point where I have to be there 3-4 hours a week, whereas before I was doing 10 hours a week. So that's changed. And then for Twitter, again, Twitter Spaces. I've committed to 1 hour per week. I'll be honest that the sessions have lasted 2 hours because when you first start on those platforms, a lot of people that want to share and it goes well, and so I let it go for 2 hours. And so I've been in rooms that went 4 hours. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the same thing on Twitter Spaces, but hopefully I'll be able to find that balance. But right now I've committed certain amounts of time per week, and as long as my schedule is plugged in, I'll be able to do them.
And that's what I've started doing as well is scheduling my Clubhouse time, which kind of takes away from the romanticism of just lurking in the hallway of Clubhouse to find a topic that fascinates you. But at the same time, it's started to keep me on task with the other priorities in my life. The priorities, if you don't mind me saying, the priorities that hopefully will end up creating some revenue and some income. And so, Bobby, I know you mentioned obviously that your income dried up along with literally hundreds of thousands of people in our hospitality and meeting spaces. But you are still staying in touch with clients and potential clients. Can you tell people some of the things that you're doing outside of all of the great free content that you give out in Clubhouse and Twitter?
Like in terms of my programs, things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, before, I used to run personal branding workshops on behalf of my company, DYPB, Discovery Personal Brand, and now we completely digitized that. So there's an entire online program with 30 videos, 30 exercises, and 20 hours of homework materials to help people discover and dive deep into their brand and come up with their brand statement and their brand kind of design. So that's a whole program that we've created online. I also started doing online storytelling workshops where I take like 4 to 6 people and I basically take them through over 2 hours and help them develop their own powerful stories, like a 3-minute story, or take their content and really boost it from the story perspective. So that's something I've been doing. And now I run a 5-day thought leadership program, a series where I go through 5 key elements that I teach them on thought leadership. So one is mindset, confidence. The other one is building relationships, content creation, community building, storytelling, and then personal branding. And then I take them through, and then some of them join me for an 8-week thought leadership writing program where they take the course, they have group coaching, and go through the whole process. And now I'm doing stuff for Clubhouse. I'm doing Clubhouse tips on how to grow your own club, how to moderate a room, how to build your brand on there, how to leverage relationships, and then also how to monetize. So I'm doing all that. That's my new project now that I'm doing. And then on the other side, there's three main things I'm working on: the Clubhouse growth, the Clubhouse growth. The second one is the thought leadership branding program, and the third one is my speaking and training. So I'm being trained tomorrow actually on helping insurance executives to leverage LinkedIn better. So I train people on things like storytelling, branding, LinkedIn, Twitter usage, how to build thought leadership workshop, how to create content, how to do videos, how to reach out to people in an authentic way and build meaningful relationships. So a lot of that stuff that I talk about, I'm still going to companies and training them on that kind of stuff.
And I'm so glad to hear that, because you're right. A lot of us have had to take that great pause, but it sounds like you've stayed very busy, probably more busy than you'd like with all the Clubhouse commitments that you have. You touched on something that you do training around that I've watched you a little, again, in the limited time I've known you, your own journey around mindset and confidence, and in particular being very authentic on your platforms. In fact, for you, it's almost become a meta experience in when you're authentic about being authentic. Can you walk us through a little bit about how your content has changed to include a little bit more of the personal Bobby Umar, and how that creates connection with your clients and with your audience?
Yeah, so I think over the years, probably in the last year or two, I've been more open about being vulnerable about certain things. So I've always been open in the last 5 years, I would say, about sharing my health journey. So whether I'm doing keto, or I'm dealing with body image, or I'm trying to lose weight, or I'm struggling, whether it's the good or the bad, I'm willing to share that stuff. And I've also been sharing that on LinkedIn. So and I think by being open about that kind of stuff, it allows people to know they're not alone, and to feel like they have a voice too. And sometimes they listen and they reach out, which is nice with private messages. So I've been doing that. The other thing I've been shifting into in the last, last year, is getting more socially active. So social activism, social justice, talking about racism, talking about politics, things that I care about that are bothering me or upsetting me. I'm trying to share that stuff more. And I've been inspired by some people on LinkedIn in particular about how they share their stuff. And I want to do that too. And I think what happens is by doing it. I've also learned how to do it in a way where I think it can, because there's a way to do it where you can be ranting, and there's a way to do it where you can actually invite conversation. So I've learned over the years to how to, particularly on Twitter, which is a very divisive space, how to invite conversation with the right people. And the people who are willing to engage do so. The ones who don't, they don't really have an outlet for them. There's no outlet for them to troll me, because I don't really allow that. So I've learned different practices for doing that, and I think it's served me well.
Well, it's certainly serving your community. I know that I always learn not only about you, but from you on how to authentically be authentic. And I know that sounds very meta, but I think but spaces have been crowded with people using authenticity as a selling tool, and then it comes off as inauthentic. And so right. there's this fine line in being authentic. In fact, we talked about this in one of the Clubhouse rooms. It might have even been LinkedIn Mastery, about that fine line between being truly authentic in service of someone else and being authentic to try and attract an audience, which, there's a fine line there. And I think, that it becomes very blurry sometimes when people share about their journey, about the motivations behind it. But you have always been very honest, almost to a gut-wrenching honesty, which has been very refreshing. And I know that I've always trusted you from the very beginning, but your journey has definitely cemented that trust factor. So I appreciate you. If no one else comments, which they will, but I've always appreciated your story and your storytelling.
I think a key piece is intent.
Yes.
Right? What's your intent? Is your intent to drive sales? Okay, then maybe you'll be authentic. But if your intent is just to, certainly being vulnerable, being authentic can lead to conversions and relationship and trust building and maybe sales. But when I share the social activism stuff, my intent is to bring awareness to those issues. When I talk about vulnerability around my body image and food addiction, binge eating issues, that's because I'm trying to help myself by processing my emotions, but also help people who are out there who don't have a voice and they love. And 90% of people don't even comment. They see, read, and they internalize it. And so it really helps them. I mean, those things aren't really meant for building business. I mean, when I want to build business, I deliver value and I start a conversation and then say, hey, let's take this offline and let's have a conversation about how I can help you with your brand or your storytelling or what it might be. But when I do the other ones, I mean, it's kind of an offshoot of the Gary Vaynerchuk jab, 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 right hook rule on value, then ask for business. I'm actually doing jab, 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 hug, and then group hug where I throw in a good. And so I do a hug is basically vulnerable, and a group hug is where I basically do a lot of gratitude for people that are on the platform. And that's, to me, a big part of what I like to do with my content.
You would be the worst boxer. I'm sorry, but you can't just jab somebody and then give him a hug. Like, it's just not going to fly.
Or I transform the industry.
But I get what you're saying. I love the book Jab, 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 Right Hook. I refer to it often. So I see the formula. I love the hug and the group hug. We just maybe need to find a different analogy than the I'm going to knock you out and then I'm going to hug you afterwards.
Yeah, I don't have to feel like that.
We'll figure that one out. So, Bobby, if somebody wants to learn more about you and connect with you, aside from finding you on Clubhouse and Twitter Space, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you and learn, in particular, about your programs around storytelling, around mindset, around authenticity? How can they find you?
Well, my main website is called rayallen.com. That's for all my speaking, training, and coaching that I do. And then I have dypb.ca, which is Discover Personal Brand. That's for all the personal branding work that people want, personal branding and thought leadership branding. And then for all the Clubhouse stuff, you go to thoughtleadershipbranding.club. So those are all the three different websites you can do. Another one, I have another one called sagesquad.ca for coaching specifically, but you can get coaching on my main Ray Allen page too. But let's say I'm out there, I'm everywhere. Reach out to me anytime. You can see what I'm doing, what I talk about, and I'm happy to connect with people and see if I can help them.
Well, and you've certainly already helped me today, and you help me every day. We always connect, and
you're so nice, and you're so nice and lovely. Come on, Leanne, you're just so.
Oh no, you'll see the authentic Leanne sooner or later. But yeah, but here's the thing: how can you like not love tea time on Tuesdays? It's literally my favorite time of the week. Is to just take a break, have these fun conversations. And this is one of my favorites because you are definitely one of my favorites. Thanks everyone for joining us today. If you're catching this on replay and you have questions or you need to get a hold of Bobby or I, still plunk them in the comments because we're reading that. We'll follow up with you. We'll make sure that you're connected with the right people, be it Bobby and his team over at thoughtleadershipbranding.club, or if you'd like to connect with Bobby and his other collaborators on their different programs and offerings through this time. And don't forget that Bobby is a keynote speaker. So I'm speaking to you if you are a meeting planner or an event planner and you are ramping up your in-person meetings for 2022. Bobby is an in-demand keynote speaker, and he speaks on these topics and so many others. So please reach out to me or Bobby to connect on how he can elevate your next meeting or conference when it is safe to do so, which I think is happening so very soon for us here.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that too, because I think that's the one. It's the thing I miss the most. I miss being on a stage in front of 100 or 1,000 people. I think I have one coming. I have stuff to book 2022, but I have one coming. I think the earliest is in the fall in Poland, and I'm looking forward to that because I haven't been in front of people for a long time. So I'm looking forward to going back to doing that again because it's my favorite thing. It's my number one love in the world to be on stage and be on fire and light people up with my content and engage in them. So.
And we are looking forward. Well, that's the thing is I never saw you on stage. Like I met you in Clubhouse.
Yeah.
And then, like I do. It's my living to go to meetings and conferences. So the fact that we haven't crossed paths before just befuddles me. But now we have, and now I'm going to see you everywhere.
Yeah,
I won't be able to get away
what's
from
funny? And what's funny is when people are hearing me in the social audio apps, they see me as kind of just chill. I'm very calm, kind of soothing voice. Okay, here's what I think, and and I'm very matter of fact about things. If you see me on stage, I'm on fire, like I'm electric. I'm like hey, and I'm so, it's so different. I have a lot more energy on stage. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see there's one of me on. There's an event I call Hasten Hustle where I Gary Vaynerchuk was there too, and I was speaking too, and I was so excited. And I only had 12 minutes, but it was like one of the best speeches I ever gave, because I was just so on fire and so excited in front of 2,000 people. And people are like, wow, you're so different on stage. I'm like, yeah, a little bit.
Well, I believe you're an extrovert then, because you're kind of,
100%.
You're feeding off of the energy of the 2,000 people in the room. In Clubhouse, you're literally feeding off the energy of the cat in your kitchen. Like, it's just a different dynamic.
Yeah. So I feel what the room's at, but I'm 100% extrovert according to Myers-Briggs. So when I get on stage, when I get out there, it's great. But also the social media app, Clubhouse also helped me too, because I'm feeding off people's faces, their profiles, and their voices. That helps too.
Well, and that brings us back to the beginning of the discussion. Both you and I have met so many people through Clubhouse, and it is here to stay, even when we do return to in-person, because in a room with 2,000 people, you can't make the connections you can make in a half-hour Clubhouse room any given day of the week. So, so thank you so much for everything. Folks, like I said, if you have questions about Bobby, about Clubhouse, about Twitter Space, this is where you can drop those questions. We're going to check in and make sure that you're pointed in the right direction. Tuesday Tea returns in 2 weeks' time. My summer schedule is every 2 weeks instead of every 1 week, because it's cooking in my house, and sometimes doing these live videos, I'm literally melting. So 2 weeks, we are returning. We're talking about personal branding goals and kind of getting over those things that trip us up when setting our goals. Same time, same bat channel. We'll see you on Tuesday, July 27th, I think it is, 1 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern. Bobby, thank you. I know we're going to hang up this call and we're just going to jump into the WhatsApp group again, but thank you for spending time with me today here on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook Live. And I will see you tomorrow in Clubhouse.
Thank you, Leanne. I love everything you're doing too. Keep it up. Good work.
Oh, thank you, Bobby. Thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great week. Bye for now.